personally send my reporters out to confront him, and my name is signed like John Hancock. John Hancock wasn't a narcissist when he signed his name 5 times bigger than George Washington's on the Declaration of Independence. He knew they were coming after his family. He knew they were coming after his treasure and his life. And so he said, you know what? I'm going to sign it big when I sign my own death warrant. Because it's either the life of my country or the death of my body. And he signed it. Liberty or death, that's what it's about. So let me sign my name real big on 2015 Declaration of Independence. Alex Jones, baby. That's my name, and you know it. I'll never be a parasite like you. Now, we take you now live to Austria. We're going to come back in the next segment with more time, but I got wound up here. Paul Watson, tell us what's coming up. Tell us what happened in this last day. It seems more important than all the days before it at Bilderberg, the 5 days you guys have been there.
Well, it was definitely the best day, Alex, in terms of the footage that we got on the confrontation. So basically started off with us, again, driving up to the hotel past the checkpoint. And it was the most lax day of all, despite the fact that, you know, over 100 Bilderberg members were driving down the road. We would literally drive past them. Didn't even check our IDs. After days of harassment and ID checks and vehicle searches and bag searches, they didn't even check us once, which again illustrates the fact that they knew we weren't a physical threat to any of the Bilderbergers because we were right in their faces at the airport. This was all a tactic designed to intimidate the media and prevent the media from going up there, which is why, apart from InfoWars, RT was the only, you know, international media organization that was even there physically. So it completely debunked the notion that this was to do with genuine security. And they had police 6 miles away, halfway up a mountain, harassing us, when today we could get right up to the Bilderberg members' faces, right at the entrance to the terminal building of the airport. So that was the first thing. Of course, then we went straight to the airport, and it was a trickle at first, but after a couple of hours, it was literally a free-for-all, and we can get into that after the break.
Paul, your Skype is epic. If you're a radio listener, you got to go to Infowars.com/show, Infowars.com/show to see the free video feeds from Austria. And pass that link on. They don't want you to see this info. Help get it out. Of, you know, human accomplishment I love is that we're told that's what's epic history. No, epic history is shooting down the TPP so far. Epic history is going and confronting the shadow government globalists. That's what humans are supposed to do to not be slaves. Paul Watson from Austria. Bilderberg 2015 just ended. I'd say we've got record intel. Their TPP got shot down. Their entire agenda is in trouble. Please continue, Paul Watson.
Yeah, so we got to the airport. We were trying to find a good vantage zone, and we decided the best place would just to be right there at the terminal entrance because many of them started to pull in. As I said, at first it was a trickle. Then it was a deluge. And basically it was a free-for-all. They didn't know where to pull in. The police changed the location for where the cars were pulling in several times. And so we were able to get right up on them, ask them questions, get right in their face as they were entering the hotel building. But before that, our friend Tillman, who we're going to speak to shortly, hopefully, he was able to go to the train station because some of them were traveling by train, the ones that live in Italy and nearby countries, as opposed to going to the airport. So he had a confrontation with Franco Bernabe.
We played it last hour.
Yeah, it's the top story on InfoWars, who is the head of Rothschild in Europe, former Italian telecommunications CEO, and a steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group. So this is one of the top guys in Bilderberg.
Didn't we see Robert Rubin, too?
Yeah, he was there, too.
Former Treasury Secretary?
Yeah, but this is one of the guys who decides what they discuss and who to invite. So this is one of the key, most influential people in Bilderberg.
Barnaby is a kingpin of kingpins.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a 12-minute conversation. It wasn't a 10, 20-second confrontation. This was an actual conversation in which Bernabe basically said, oh, Bilderberg will put out a statement that will answer your question. Well, no, they won't put out a statement. The only statement they put out was to say, we welcome general interest in the conference, which is completely ludicrous because they surrounded themselves with a ring of steel with 2,000 police, with police on the mountain harassing us miles away. So they're
helicopter gunships, radar jamming. I mean, it was crazy.
Exactly, because they used the same security that they used for G7. It was obviously a complete overkill. You could tell the police knew that within 2 or 3 days. So it started to get more and more lax. Obviously, the mountain police didn't know that because they were further away. But the police that we dealt with, you know, some of them were cool, some of them were mean to us. But by the end of it, they just really didn't give a damn. As I said, we went straight through the checkpoint on the last day. As all the Bilderberg members were driving down, they didn't even check our ID. So it completely belies the notion that this was all necessary for the security of Bilderberg.
But remember, it doesn't exist. They still have publications writing articles, Paul, saying it doesn't even exist.
Well, the media in the past has harped on about the fact that it has no power and influence. And for the first time, I think, this year, there have hardly been any news articles that try to claim that. There's been a couple. But in fact, if you look at Jose Manuel Barroso, the Prime Minister of Portugal, former EU Commission head, yesterday it was announced that he's been appointed as a steering committee member. And in fact, Sol, S-O-L, one of Portugal's major newspapers, said that this appointment held equal importance and influence as his position at the EU Commission. So again, he's now a steering committee member. He has equal or more power.
Being a steering committee member like Franco Barnaby of the Rothschilds is as big as being EU president. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Or bigger. They even suggested that it was bigger. So Tillman got the Barnaby confrontation, which we got. Then we were at the airport. They were actually going into the airport, eating at the cafe in the departure lounge before you go through security, where there's a flight deck observation where you can see the planes taking off and landing. And they were just sitting there drinking coffee. And both Tillman and Rob Dew were able to just walk up to them and have confrontations and conversations with them again. So in comparison to previous years, this, and in particular this final day, is the closest we've got to confronting Bilderberg members and having actual conversations with them. And in the case of Barnaby, he cited Chatham House rules. If you actually read what Chatham House rules means, it's you can say what happened, but you can't say who said what. But he claimed that because of these Chatham House rules, he couldn't say a word. Again, a complete lie, incorrect. He's obviously paranoid about the fact that if he speaks out, if he lets anything slip, then he's no longer going to be.
Well, I mean, let's face it. You're getting in the face of global, real corporate mafia dons, and so you guys are
very
heroes.
Arrogant.
They're very arrogant. You say you've got some of the local reporters that did some of this. You want to interview somebody? Paul, you want to bring somebody in right now, or who should I talk to next?
Yeah, we'll bring Rob Dew in for that interview in a moment. But yeah, they're arrogant. I mean, Rob confronted another individual up there on the observation deck, Oscar Bronner, who is the Austrian media mogul. He owns Der Standard, and he was traveling with Karl Svelda. Bronner didn't say very much, but Svelda was more chatty. And in fact, he said, when Rob asked him his name, he held up his name tag and said, "Can you read?" So again, complete arrogance. Everyone we confronted basically showed that arrogance. So again, we got numerous confrontations. They showed their arrogance, and they've been exposed completely. As TPP begins to crumble, we've had more access than ever before at Bilderberg 2015.
Well, it's just unprecedented, and it's funny how we got the least amount of info because of all the security this time, but then got the most at the end. It just shows that perseverance is what matters. It's what comes through. I've got Joe Biggs coming in here to report in the next segment, so I want to get this rolling, but great job, guys. You're going back to the UK tomorrow. Rob Dew and Josh Owens are coming back here to Austin, Texas, and we'll have more of the HD footage, more of the confrontations going up in the morning. I know you guys will try to stay up late. It's like midnight there, but just go ahead and go to bed. Get it up tomorrow. Great job. There's still tons of stuff at Infowars.com that just broke today. But thank you so much, Paul. Anything else you'd like to add before we briefly come back and talk to Rob Dew and that other reporter?
No, just the fact that again, the most paranoia was centered around the conference itself because they're desperate to avoid leaks from the conference. They don't actually care about physical threats to Bilderbergers. That's why it was such a ring of steel, an encampment, because they didn't want anyone getting close.
They care about the criminal meeting with the banking regulators, meeting with the banks that have been indicted.
And Rob will talk about this more, but we went back to the hotel tonight where it was open. There were no checkpoints. We got in, we were immediately kicked out, and Rob can tell you more about that soon.
And we played the footage of that. We're going to break in 30 seconds. We'll come back, briefly talk to Du and others, and we've got Joe Biggs here to break down the media blaming conspiracy theorist. If you slip on a banana peel, it's conspiracy theorist for the attack on the Dallas police station. It's all coming up. You know, we're those conspiracy theorists that go to the imaginary meeting with the troops and the helicopter and the thousands of police and the gunships and the radar jamming and the cell phone jamming. Yeah, it's all imaginary. It doesn't exist. We don't know who's false flagging, but it's leaning that way. And Joe Biggs is a combat veteran. Even the police chief of Dallas said we thought people were shooting from an elevated position. This story just does not add up. We're going to talk about it in about 5 minutes. Obviously, if they're not on planes tomorrow, I'll have them on to debrief what happened at Bilderberg. We're limited on time right now. But we've got Rob Du now joining us, who's been there since last Sunday. And, of course, Josh Owens. And they're talking to one of the local European reporters that got so many of these amazing interviews. So, Rob, we got about 5 minutes. Finish up with what happened to you today, overall Bilderberg news, and tell us about this reporter that got so much footage.
Sure. Well, it was an amazing day today at the airport, and we got a lot of footage. And we met a guy, Mr. Tillman, who's a reporter from Germany, and he said, hey, I've got a confrontation here with Franco Barnaby. Let's check it out. We went up. We were editing it up in the cafe. And just as we had finished, we were exporting it out and getting ready to upload it to YouTube. And then walks in Oscar Bronner, Carl Svelta, and Rudolf Schulten. Rudolf Schulten and Carl Svelta are these big international bankers. Oscar Bronner is a publisher for De Standard. And I immediately saw Oscar Bronner because I recognized him. And I said, there he is. Tillman was so quick on the draw. He put his memory card back in his camera and was up before I could even get out of my chair, confronting Mr. Schulten. And then I went up and confronted Oscar Bronner, asking him if he was going to actually spill the beans on what really goes on in Bilderberg. And I said, you know, you need to come clean. Otherwise, people are going to keep asking you questions about this and confronting you. And he goes, don't worry, I am clean. You know, just in this typical Austrian bodaciousness that I've been seeing from the cops here. You know, these people on the upper echelon just think they're better than everyone else. And it's totally disgusting. But I want to bring
they're the Ubermenschen.
Yeah, exactly. So here's Mr. Tillman. He actually, I really respect what he did. He's got a camera, cost him about 80 euros, but he was still able to get probably two of the biggest confrontations at Bilderberg. So Tillman, let me ask you a question. How did you feel when you were confronting these guys? What was going through your mind?
I mean, yeah, it went all pretty fast, so it was actually by accident. So I actually wanted to pick up a friend at the airport, at the train station, and then a car from the Interabend pulls up on me, and there's a guy coming out who looks kind of familiar to me. So I knew him because he walked out also 2011 in Switzerland. So I knew I got a Bilderberger here. Yeah. So and I know at the train station no one can protect him, and he had no bodyguards, no police. He was totally coverless. So I just thought, okay, let's attack him as long as possible. So I really made like 12-minute footage, and I also have a YouTube channel in Germany. I confront politicians too, so I'm used to this. So
give us that.
Yeah, I'll stay on them. So
tell them your YouTube channel.
It's called Bürgerberg. It's like German We Are Change. It's like my own project, and I do this with a lower budget and a smaller camera. But I confronted politicians from the Green Party, the Liberal
But a big heart. You're having a big effect.
Parties on mostly Bilderberg because it's like an easy question to ask. So
yeah. Exactly, and that's the thing. He's doing it with a smaller, inexpensive camera, but he's still confronting people. And I tell you, the Barnaby confrontation is big because it just shows how bodacious these guys are at the end of the day. And this was a Rothschild. You bagged a Rothschild at Bilderberg.
Well, the head of their banking dynasty, because they now farm that out. Because they're so inbred, they can hardly. The point is that, I mean, this is one of the head globalists. He's on the Bilderberg steering committee. This is a big deal, so we salute you. Good job. You actually confronted a major mafia don.
Yeah, and I think what's big is that he didn't take no for an answer. He didn't back down. He kept, and then he started preaching to him about what's going on at Bilderberg. He did the same thing with Mr. Schulten. Mr. Schulten didn't really want to talk to him, but he just kept saying more and more and more, and just letting him know that the people do not agree with what's going on at Bilderberg.
Hey, I don't think the Bilderbergs are too happy about TPP being in deep trouble and being voted down Friday. I want you to get a full interview with him that will air when you get back this week. We'll also debrief